because the cry of Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and because their sin is very grievous, I will go down now and see whether they have done altogether according to the cry of it, which is common to me, and if not, I will know. And the men turned their faces from thence and went towards Sodom, but Abraham stood yet before the Lord. And Abraham drew near and said, Wilt thou also destroy the righteous with the wicked? Peradventure there be 50 righteous within the city. Wilt thou also destroy and not spare the place for the 50 righteous that are therein, that be far from thee, to do after this manner, to slay the righteous and the wicked, and that the righteous should be as the wicked, that be far from thee? Shall not the judge of all the earth do right? And the Lord said, If I find in Sodom 50 righteous within the city, then I will spare all the place for their sake. And Abraham answered and said, Behold, now I have taken upon me to speak unto the Lord, which am but dust and ashes. Peradventure there lack 5 of the 50 righteous. Wilt thou destroy all the city for lack of 5? And he said, If I find 40 and 5, I will not destroy it. And he spake unto him yet again and said, Peradventure there shall be 40 there. And he said, I will not do it for 40's sake. And he said unto him, Oh, let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak. Peradventure there shall be 30 be found there. And he said, I will not do it if I find 30 there. And he said, Behold, now I have taken upon me to speak unto the Lord. Peradventure there shall be 20 found there. And he said, I will not destroy it for 20's sake. And he said, Oh, let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak yet but this once. Peradventure 10 shall be found there. And he said, I will not destroy it for 10's sake. And the Lord went his way as soon as he had left communing with Abraham. And Abraham returned unto his place. The benefits of grace and what happens when a man departs from grace. And what I like about God is that he will not leave you, but you can leave him. You can decide to turn away from him, but he will not decide to turn away from you. You can decide to go into a state of apostasy. You can decide to walk away from grace, but grace will never walk away from you. A young man who suddenly found himself prosper under grace suddenly decided to abandon grace. To leave Abraham is to leave grace. There are certain people in your life that leaving them is tantamount to leaving grace. And this young man left Abraham, departed to a watered place, which later became Sodom and Gomorrah. And when God decided that the iniquity of the nation was becoming too much, and decided he was going to destroy the nation, he came and shared it with Abraham. He said to Abraham, I have decided to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. And immediately Abraham remembered he has someone within Sodom. I will be speaking on the benefits of grace and what happens when a man departs from grace. Immediately Abraham began to negotiate the destiny of that nation. Abraham began to say, Lord, if you find 50, will you, for 50's sake, forgive them? And God said, if I find 50, I will forgive them. He said, what of if the 50 be void of 5. He said, for 45, I will forgive them. He said, what of 40? He said, if I find 40, I will forgive them. He said, what of 30? He said, for 30's sake, I will forgive them. He said, what of 20? He said, for 20's sake, I will forgive them. He said, let me take it upon me to talk to the Lord, but this one more time. What if you find 10? He said, for 10's sake, I will forgive them. And Abraham left speaking. And why Abraham stopped at 10 was because he used to live with Lot. And while they were living together, Lot had herdsmen living with him. And Abraham knew that those herdsmen were up to 50. And that was why he started with the number 50. So peradventure there were no righteous men in Sodom, that the household of Lot alone should be up to 50. Because as of that time that Abraham was interceding for Lot, Abraham had in his house 318 men born in his family. So if God was to go to where Abraham was living and demand for 100 persons, they would have been found. But Lot was in a diminishing state, was going down and down and down and down. And Abraham took it to 10. Peradventure that those herdsmen were no more with him, he knew that there will be up to 10 persons at least who are living in his house, which he should be able to hold them unto righteousness. But it was not so. When Abraham stopped at 10, he believed that that there should be 10 persons in the house of Lot. But when the angels got to the house of Lot, it was Lot, when they knocked, it was Lot who went to open the door, meaning that there was no man living in Lot's house. By that time, all the herdsmen had finished. There was no more stranger in Lot's house. In Lot's house, there were only Lot, his wife, and 2 daughters. And when Lot was negotiating with the homos living in Sodom, when Lot was discussing with them and they decided to break the door, it was Lot who was at the door. And there was no male member in his family. To the disappointment of Abraham, they could not find any other person. When a man departs from grace, he goes into diminishing state. Things began to get finished in the man's hand. Lot began to go down while Abraham was growing stronger and stronger. Lot was getting weaker and weaker. May you not grow weak. In triumph ministry that God has planted you, if you remain under this grace, you will go from strength to strength, from grace to grace, from glory to glory. And I pray for you, you will not have a better yesterday. Lot got to a place that all the headsmen were no more there. All the servants who were running his business were no more there. And I believe that Lot was not the one running the business single-handedly. It then means that there was no business again. I know people who suddenly disappeared into oblivion. You will not be one of them. We are not just here for funfair. We are not here to socialize. We are not here to see one another. We are here to renew the bond of grace. We are here to renew the covenant of grace. We are here to renew our walk with the Lord. And I pray for you, you will not suddenly forget where you started. You will not suddenly forget where God picked you up from. You will not suddenly forget that you used to be in the choir. You were a member of the singing ministry. You will ever remain committed and connected to the covenant of grace. In the precious name of Jesus. And Abraham said, Lord, what if you find 10 persons? Lot woke up very early in the morning and walked around the city looking for 10, but could not produce 10. Even if the daughters were to be married, they will still be short of 10, because he walked away from grace. There are personalities in your life that are more important than properties. There are personalities that you must esteem your relationship with them more than property, more than your car. Your relationship with your pastor is more than your acquired properties. When this man left Abraham, presumably that should be his spiritual father, he gradually disappeared. He gradually began to lose everything in his house, to a point that he had nothing. You won't get to that state. You won't get to a state where you have nothing. I pray for you in this first service that your grace will be on the increase. You will not suddenly get to a place where you used to have a car, you no more have a car. You used to live in your house, you no more live in your house. You used to have things and you no more have them. There is a state in my language called I get them before. And it is